All right, ladies and gentlemen. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about Death Stranding 2. It's the brand new game that has come out or coming out from Hideo Kojima, obviously. And this is the sequel to the original Death Stranding game that is a very polarizing game for the most part. You have some diehard people that truly enjoy the game through and through. And then you have other people that call it a walking simulator that is super boring and it's terrible and all kinds of stuff. Well, Death Stranding 2 has promised to fix a lot of those issues that were found in the first game. And a lot of the reviews for this game are actually pretty high. A lot of people are giving it 9s and 10s, and that's if you even trust the mainstream gaming journalists for the 9s and 10s. But there is one particular outlet that's getting a lot of heat right now, and that is GameSpot. GameSpot decided, Diego Nicolas Arguello over at GameSpot decided that it was in his best interest to give Death Stranding 2 a 7. And you're probably saying, well, that's not bad. What's the big deal? Well, it's because he decided that it was in his best interest to make this into an ideology piece, where if you look at the good and the bad, you're going to notice that in the bad, he decided to write in this review, and he decided to ding this game for points because of questionable tropes around women. What that has to do with Death Stranding 2, I have absolutely no idea. So before we get into the video, special shout out to the 90,500 plus that are subscribed to the channel. If you're not subscribed yet and you're part of the 50% that aren't, consider hitting that subscribe. I'll greatly appreciate it. So let's look at the good and the bad for Death Stranding 2. And keep in mind, he gave it a 7 out of 10. The good is revisiting the world of Death Stranding is exciting. Photorealistic visuals are stunning, even on a base PS5 model. Core gameplay is still unique. Repetitive story beats, these are the bad. Repetitive story beats that are too close to the first game. Focus on weapons and spectacle detracts from uniqueness, which is so weird, by the way, because a lot of people had complaints that the first game had little to no combat whatsoever, and it was a walking simulator. Now this person is digging Death Stranding 2 for apparently focusing on weapons and spectacles that distract from the uniqueness of the game. So I don't know if he's saying that they're focusing too much on weapons, but I think that's a little bit weird considering that that was a big complaint for a lot of people who actually played the game, the first game anyway, which I highly doubt this journalist actually played the game more than just a couple of hours in the demo that was given to him. Friction is lost, rendering some challenges superficial. Questionable tropes around women, which we're going to get into in a couple of seconds. And boss fights that are unimaginative. Now, if there's one thing, again, I haven't played the game, so maybe you guys can leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. But if there's one thing I can say is that Hideo Kojima does not create unimaginative boss fights. You know what I mean? Like Hideo Kojima creates some of the weirdest, most insane boss fights that are known to modern day gaming. All right. If you look at the Metal Gear Solid franchise, a lot of the memorable events were boss fights that were in that game. Psycho Mantis, I'm looking at you. Sniper Wolf, I'm looking at you. Like these are situations that Hideo Kojima has created. And I just don't imagine him to be someone who would make unimaginative boss fights. But what do I know? Again, I haven't played the game yet, but I do plan to check this franchise out. Now, Diego is getting roasted in the comments of his own article, of his own review, where a lot of people are basically yelling at him for making this an ideology piece for whatever reason he decided to do. This person says, just to put this context here, I mean, the reviewer can have his own opinion, hers, but remember, GameSpot gave The Last of Us 2 a 7 out of 10 also. So they're trying to make the comparison as if for some reason by giving this game a 7 out of 10, that's a good thing because this person gave The Last of Us 2 a 7 out of 10, as if that's a good score for a game that supposedly they think is what are you trying to say? Last of Us 2 is an amazing game. Nobody likes The Last of Us 2. Very few people do. This person even calls it out, Rothschild, and says a lot of people here didn't like The Last of Us 2, dude. First, opinions. Second, everyone's entitled to their own. You're probably a fanboy. But then again, about other people's opinions, cope with it. So then if we scroll down, it just got done reading the IGN review, totally different. 9 out of 10. Yes, IGN gave this game a glowing 9 out of 10 review. This person is shilling for Diego and says, Godspeed, Diego. You're going to continue to get some very unhinged responses for having your own opinion on how Kojima depicts women. Again, what does the depiction of women have to do with the actual game itself, the gameplay? What does that have to do with anything? Again, depiction of women, this is something that you yourself care about. You yourself care about. There are no gamers out there, actual gamers, that are looking for this game, Death Stranding 2, and wanting to know whether or not the depictions of women are progressive or not. Like that there's nobody out there that's looking for that. You putting that in there was just for you, yourself, and your fellow journalist friends, and that is it. And then if we scroll down, here we go. He's getting roasted. Questionable tropes around women. Here we go again. Then gaming journalists wonder why nobody takes him seriously anymore. Sigh, right? So if we continue to go down, you're going to see the comments. There's over 100 comments on this. It's insane. There's over 100 comments. People are clearly not very happy, but you also got people defending this as well. But if you go over to X really quick, we got a post here from Vanderhub who says game journalists are willing to tarnish the reputation of Death Stranding 2 simply to virtue signal for their ideology. So what is he talking about? Well, let's check it out. GameSpot doesn't like the portrayal of women in childbirth. This is the person who did it, by the way. Let me open it up on a bigger tab so you guys can kind of see what we got going on here so we can get a better idea of what we're dealing with here, because I feel like you need to see the multicolor hair and the piercings and everything under the sun, unfortunately, that have been tied to an ideology like this. You need to see it to understand exactly what you're dealing with here. This person, Diego, apparently writes for New York Times, not surprised, WAPO, Vulture, Rolling Stone. Interesting. I'm not surprised about the Rolling Stone one. There are certain journalists out there that say they're in the gaming industry that write for the Rolling Stone. But again, I don't know of anybody that goes to the Rolling Stone for their gaming news. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so it says this obsession with honoring past legacy also carries the baggage of some of the series' worst tropes, particularly around the portrayal of women, which the first game was guilty of. While I can't speak with authority about some of the sequel's plot lines, including one involving a phenomenon around childbirth, some scenes cause an exhausting deja vu. There's an unskippable photography minigame featuring 3 women posing in front of the camera, as well as a central character who often takes her shoes off as crew members make a running commentary about this habit. Oh my God, no way. No way, ladies and gentlemen. So what is the absolute crime that Death Stranding 2 has done that has gotten people so upset, like this person that has decided to say there are questionable tropes around women? Well, it's the unskippable cutscene of 3 women taking pictures. Wow. 3 women taking pictures has triggered this person enough to give this game a 7 and to make one of the bad things a questionable trope around women. That's rough. That's rough. I understand. I get it. Listen, if I look like this, chances are I wouldn't want to be exposed to anything regarding the female form whatsoever, because chances are I probably like hot dogs a lot. You know what I mean? So I get it. I totally get it. But listen, I think it's stupid. It's just, yeah, really unbelievable. So let's continue. Then he says that the character pans during cutscenes aren't as excessive as, say, the treatment around Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, but it all just feels unnecessary. And since you're witnessing photorealistic depictions of real-life actors, it could slip into being a bit weird. So because the camera pans around the female actresses, which, by the way, if I know Hideo Kojima games very well, the camera also pans around male characters as well. But it seems like this person only has a problem when the character pans around the female characters. Gee, I can only wonder why that is. So you mean to tell me that you decided to hit this game for questionable tropes around women, and the 2 biggest complaints that you have in the article or in the review is that, 1, you had to watch an unskippable cutscene of women taking photos of themselves, and 2, the camera during cutscenes tends to swirl around female characters in the same exact depictions as they tend to swirl around male characters. But because it's female, it's a trope. Bro, at this point, I don't even know what to even say. Do you know how many times the camera has panned to Solid Snake's fucking ass? Do you understand how many times, like, you had to see Snake's butt cheeks? Seriously, what are we even talking about here? Did you even play any of these games? I'm telling you, man, these journalists, all they do is play the demo, and they go watch shill YouTubers that play the full games, and they watch them play the games, and then they write their entire review and put it out there. There's no way, bro. There's no way that you played any of these games if you're complaining about the camera angles for women when it's the exact same way with fucking male characters in Hideo Kojima games. It's unbelievable. Were you complaining when Raiden was naked in Metal Gear Solid? Were you complaining about that? Were you complaining about when he was shirtless in Metal? Like, oh my God, bro. What are we doing? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? So at the end of the day, The reason why we bring this up is because, and shout out again to Banderhub. Thank you so much for this photo. That is awesome. If you're not following Banderhub on Twitter, please make sure to go follow him if you enjoy the content. But this person is a prime example of what it means when ideology takes precedence over the work that you're doing, right? This is why when I do my reviews on Steam, when I write them out and I write those freaking novels that I write them the way that I do because I don't want any ideology in my reviews. I don't want left. I don't want right. I don't want nothing. I just want to talk about the game, what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly about it. That's all I want to do. And if you start sneaking in bullshit like this, talking about, oh, the camera pans around women in a suspicious way, and it's really weird because it's real people, bro, okay. So let me ask you a question, Diego. If you think it's weird that the camera in-game is panning around the female actresses because you think it's weird for some reason, how exactly do you think the cameras move when they're taking their 360 shots of the actresses? Because, by the way, when they're doing mocap or when they do the model capping and they got them, covered with all the stuff and whatnot, look at what happened with Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade, the character Eve was modeled after a real supermodel. She stood in the middle of, I don't even know how many cameras, and they were 360ing her all around. Is that weird? How else would she have done the job? But of course, for Diego, it's not about what makes sense. It's just about the actual ideology and whatever his nonsense is. So you guys can let me know in the comments. Obviously, people are cooking this guy, rightfully so. Absolutely cooking. Vanderhub says, I've been gathering their names for a while now. Got to expose these weirdos. He does a good job, and he compiles it all really nicely in a good post. So shout out again to him. These people are absolutely stupid. And it just further proves that you cannot rely on the mainstream gaming journalism to put out anything that looks even remotely authentic. There's nothing authentic about it. This person wrote a review over a couple of hours of gameplay and decided to end his review talking about tropes about women, and then he dinged the game just because of it. If you were giving this game a 7 out of 10 and you never once mentioned the tropes around women, I wouldn't care. But that's just your opinion, right? But now that you're putting tropes about women, now I have to question your entire review because you decided to make ideology a forefront of the review. And it's really unfortunate. And this is why you guys lose all the time. So you guys can let me know in the comments down below. What do you think about this story? Do you think this journalist, Diego, is somebody who is a really good journalist? Or do you think this guy's an absolute joke? Do you think this is an ideology-driven review? Or do you think he was just being fair with his review? You could agree, you could disagree, but you can let me know in the comments down below. And special shout out to the 90,500 plus that are subscribed to the channel. If you're not and you enjoyed the video, consider hitting that subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one.